Some people just don't grasp the concept of boundaries, no matter how clearly you spell it out. Nicely, sternly, or with a neon sign screaming, "Don't do that." They'll still waltz right over the line, oblivious or indifferent, and that's precisely how my saga with the neighborhood's most shameless woman kicked off. She lived 2 houses down, a creature of chaos who, for reasons beyond even the wildest stretch of logic, decided my garage was her personal parking lot. Yes, you read that right. She parked her car in my space every single day. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was an honest mix-up, a one-time fluke. So, like any reasonable person, I strolled over to her house, knocked on her door, and braced myself for a civilized chat. She opened it, eyeing me like I was a pesky delivery guy who'd shown up late. "Hi, I think you parked in my garage by accident," I said, keeping it light. She blinked, then hit me with a response so brazen I nearly choked. "Oh yes, it's just that my space is tight, and yours is so convenient, easier to get in and out of." As if that justified anything. I stood there, dumbfounded, waiting for her to catch the absurdity dripping from her words, but her face stayed blank, like she'd been born without a shred of self-awareness. So I took a deep breath and laid it out plain. "Okay, but this is my garage, I live here." She flashed a tiny smirk, muttered an "oh, right," and shut the door in my face. In my face, I swear in that moment I'd never been closer to torching a car, hers specifically. That was the spark that ignited a daily nightmare. I'd come home, find her car squatting in my spot, and have to march over, knock, and wait while she sauntered out like she was doing me a favor. No rush, no apology, just a vibe that screamed, this guy again." She'd move it, sure, but with all the enthusiasm of a sloth on sedatives. I tried everything. I complained to the neighborhood association, rallied the neighbors, even attempted more polite talks. Her genius fix. "Why don't you park on the street?" "On the street. When I've got a garage I pay for." I wanted to believe she was kidding, but her dead serious stare told me otherwise. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was war, and I needed a real strategy. My first move was to ditch the nice guy act. One morning I got up early, parked my car inches from hers, leaving her maybe 10 centimeters to maneuver, then retreated to my kitchen with a coffee to watch the show. She came out, tried to open her door, and surprise, couldn't. She circled her car, huffed, puffed, and after half an hour of stewing, rang my bell. "Can you move your car so I can get out?" she demanded. I could have, sure, but I sipped my coffee and played deaf instead. 2 hours later, I strolled out, feigning shock. "Wow, you're still here? Didn't even notice." My fake smile was Oscar-worthy. She didn't find it funny, but I was cackling inside. For a fleeting second, I thought I'd won. Big mistake. The next day, her car was back in my driveway, bold as ever. She hadn't learned a thing, and neither had I, because I'd underestimated her stubbornness. Fair play was out the window now. She didn't deserve courtesy. She deserved a reckoning, and I had just the plan brewing. Patience might be a virtue, but I'm no saint, and that woman had burned through mine like a match on dry grass. After all the warnings, the talks, the petty parking retaliation, her car was still in my driveway, mocking me. That's when I snapped, not in a loud, dramatic way, but with a cold, calculated resolve. If she wouldn't leave willingly, I'd make sure she left regretting it. I flopped onto my sofa, stared at the ceiling, and let my mind churn. The police. Sure, I could call them, but they'd probably shrug it off as a petty neighbor spat and tell me to work it out. A tow truck, though, that had potential. Not just any tow, mind you. If I was going to the trouble of hauling her wretched car away, it'd be a one-way trip she'd never forget. Then it hit me. Why stop at an impound lot? Why not send it straight to the scrapyard? Harsh? Maybe. But after months of her treating my garage like her personal annex and me like the nuisance, it felt like poetic justice. With a grin that could have doubled as a villain's, I grabbed my phone and dialed. I called a car removal service, channeling my inner concerned citizen. "Hi, there's an abandoned car in my garage," I said, voice steady. "It's been there for days and I can't reach the owner. Can you take it?" The guy on the line asked a few routine questions, make, model, location, then dropped the golden words. "We can pick it up now. Standard is the impound yard, but if you authorize it, we can take it to our partner, Junkyard." I bit back a laugh. "Junkyard it is," I said, sealing her fate. 40 minutes later, a hulking tow truck rumbled into my driveway. The driver hopped out, glanced at her car, then at me. "This the abandoned one?" he asked. "That's it," I replied, layering on some fake outrage. He hooked it up with the efficiency of a pro, cables clanking as the car lifted off the ground. I settled onto my balcony with a fresh coffee, ready to savor the show until she showed up. There she was, strolling back from who knows where, freezing mid-step as she spotted her car dangling from the tow truck. For a glorious few seconds, she just stood there, jaw slack, processing the scene. Then she erupted. "What are you doing? That's my car!" she shrieked, charging toward the truck, finger jabbing the air like she could intimidate it back down. The driver barely flinched. "You're in the wrong garage, ma'am. Owner requested removal." She wheeled on me, eyes blazing. "You can't do this." "Oh, I can, and I did," I shot back, smiling wide. She tried to pivot, grasping at straws. "I'll call the police. This is theft." But I was ready. I whipped out my phone and flashed an email I'd sent to the neighborhood association weeks ago, documenting her car's constant trespassing. "Private property, sweetheart. I can have it removed," I said, calm as ever. Her face twisted as the tow truck's engine roared to life. "No, no, no, my car," she wailed, lunging after it, but it was too late. The vehicle rolled off toward the scrapyard, and for the first time I saw real panic in her eyes. She'd pushed the wrong guy, and now she knew it. You'd think watching her car get hauled off to the scrapyard would have been the end of it, but slackers like her don't bow out gracefully. They claw for one last jab, convinced they can still come out on top. The next day, she stormed up to my house, radiating fury like a heat wave. I was basking in the peace of finally parking in my own garage when she hammered my doorbell so hard I thought she'd yank it off the wall. I opened the door and she unleashed a tirade. "You're going to pay me for my car." I'd seen this coming, so I kept my cool, leaning against the frame with a smirk. "Wasn't mine," I said. "Or was it? Because if it was, you were trespassing. If it wasn't, it was abandoned on my property." Her face flushed a shade of red that could have stopped traffic, and she sputtered, "I'm suing you. That was theft." Oh, she was predictable. I tapped my chin, playing thoughtful. "If you sue, we'll go to court, and you know what happens there," she glared, arms crossed. "What?" I grinned. "I can claim compensation for every day you hogged my garage. Add it up. It's a nice chunk of change." That shut her up. You could almost hear the gears grinding to a halt in her head as she realized she'd boxed herself in. Sue me, and she'd likely end up owing me money. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, glaring, searching for some magical loophole. When none appeared, she pivoted to the slacker's last resort, emotional blackmail. "You've ruined my life," she whined, clutching her chest like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "I don't have a car now. I have kids. How do I get them to school? How do I work? You've destroyed me." It was a performance, sure, but I wasn't buying tickets. She dug this hole herself, and I wasn't about to climb in with her. "You shouldn't have parked in my garage," I said, shrugging, simple, brutal truth. Her sob story crumbled right there. She knew I wasn't budging, that no amount of crocodile tears would guilt me into caving. She played her hand, and it was a bust. Then came the meltdown. She stepped back, eyes blazing with pure venom, and in a fit of unhinged defiance, she spat on my balcony floor. Yes, spat like a toddler throwing a tantrum. I stared at the wet splotch, then at her, and burst out laughing. It was too perfect. That single pathetic act was her surrender flag, proof she'd run out of moves. She'd lost utterly, completely, and all she had left was this sad, spiteful gesture. I didn't even dignify it with a response. I just shut the door in her face, her muffled yells fatting as she stomped off. For a few days after, she tried acting like nothing happened, slinking down the street with her head down, avoiding eye contact. But the neighborhood didn't forget. The forced smiles and fake good mornings she used to toss around turned into sidelong glances and stifled snickers. She wasn't the HOA queen anymore. She was the lunatic who lost her car over a parking feud. And then one glorious day I saw it, a moving truck parked outside her house. She was leaving. I grabbed my coffee, plopped onto my balcony, and watched every box get loaded, grinning ear to ear. Justice at last. Victory felt sweet, but I should have known a woman like her wouldn't slink away without one final, desperate swing. Slackers never accept defeat quietly. They've always got one last trick up their sleeve, some petty parting shot to prove they're not down for the count. After the balcony spit show, I figured I'd seen the last of her antics, but a few weeks later, I rolled into my garage and spotted something odd. An old, grimy mattress dumped right in the middle of my space. At first, I thought it was random trash, maybe a neighbor's spring cleaning gone rogue. Then I noticed a piece of paper taped to it. Curious, I grabbed it and started reading, and holy hell, it was a masterpiece of delusion. In her scrawled handwriting, it read, "Since you took my car, this spot can be my new home. Hope you're happy leaving a mother without transportation. If a mattress here bothers you, imagine losing a car." At the bottom, a poorly drawn car and a sad emoji. A hand-drawn sad emoji. I stood there, torn between laughing hysterically and chucking the whole mess straight into the dumpster. The letter was peak her, zero accountability, all victimhood. No sorry for hijacking your garage for months. No, maybe I pushed it too far. Just more whining, as if I'd stormed her house and repoed her car out of spite, not because she'd turned my property into her parking lot. I shook my head, hauled the mattress to the curb for trash pickup, and figured that was that. But oh, she wasn't done. The next day, a neighbor texted me. "Did you see what she posted in the neighborhood group?" I knew something juicy was coming. I opened the app, and there it was, her latest stab at redemption. Her post screamed, "Attention neighbors, I've been the victim of a cruel act. A certain resident you know who had my car scrapped without consent. Now I'm without transportation and my family's suffering. What kind of person does this?" She'd gone public, fishing for sympathy, banking on the neighborhood rallying behind her sob story. Big mistake. The comments section lit up like a fireworks show, and not in her favor. Everyone knew the saga by now, and they weren't shy about it. One neighbor posted a photo of her mattress letter. Yep, someone had swung by my garage, snapped a pic, and thrown it into the group chat for all to see. The replies rolled in. "You parked there for months, what did you expect? Victim, you're the one who started this. That emoji, though, priceless." It was a roasting for the ages. She turned herself into the neighborhood punchline, and within minutes she deleted the post and bylaid from the group entirely. The humiliation had swallowed her whole. After that, she went ghost, skulking around, avoiding chit-chat, ditching her self-appointed HOA patrols. She knew she'd lost the war, and the neighbors' laughter was the final nail. Then one crisp Saturday morning, I saw the ultimate payoff, a moving truck outside her place. She was gone for good. I parked myself on the balcony, coffee in hand, and watched the boxes pile up, savoring every second. Our eyes met as she climbed into her ride, probably a rental, poor thing, and I gave her a nod and a smug little smile. She looked away, defeated, and I knew I'd won the long game. With her taillights fatting down the street, a strange calm settled over the neighborhood, like the air after a storm finally clears. The moving truck had hauled away her chaos, and for the first time in months, my garage was mine again, no strings attached. The neighbors even started cracking jokes about it. "Hey, your garage is really yours now?" they'd say, chuckling as they passed by. I'd laugh along because they weren't wrong. I didn't have to yell, brawl, or lose my cool to win this war. I just let her dig her own grave, one bad move at a time. Her car was scrap metal, her reputation was a running gag, and I was left with my parking space, a steaming cup of coffee, and the smug satisfaction of knowing I'd played it right. It felt like justice, the kind that doesn't need a gavel or a courtroom, just patience and a little creative retaliation. I'd outlasted her, and that was enough. But here's the thing about people like her. They don't vanish without leaving echoes. For a while, the neighborhood buzzed with the fallout. People swapped stories about her over fences and at mailboxes, how she'd once tried to find someone for planting ugly flowers, or how she demanded everyone chip in for a speed bump no one wanted. She strutted around like the HOA's unofficial dictator, and now that she was gone, it was like the whole block exhaled. The forced pleasantries she used to dish out, those tight-lipped smiles and fake good mornings, were replaced with knowing smirks and quiet relief. She overplayed her hand, and we'd all watched her crash and burn. Some even speculated why she'd left. Did she sell the house, get evicted, or just flee the shame? I didn't care. The why didn't matter, only the gone did. And as I sipped my coffee, watching the last of her stuff roll away, I couldn't help but feel a little proud of how it all shook out. Still, I kept my guard up for a bit. Slackers like her have a knack for popping back up, stirring the pot one last time just to feel relevant. I half expected a spiteful letter in the mail or some new stunt to test my patience. But days turned into weeks and nothing came. No mattresses, no group chat rants, no doorbell tantrums. She was really gone, and the neighborhood settled into a new rhythm without her. My garage stayed empty of her junk, my mornings stayed peaceful, and I started to relax into the win. Looking back, it was almost funny how it all started. A car in the wrong spot, a shrug, and a door slammed in my face. That spark had blown up into a full-on feud, and I'd come out on top without breaking a sweat. She'd underestimated me, thought I'd roll over like everyone else she'd bulldozed. Big mistake. I didn't need to match her noise. I just had to outsmart her game, and that's exactly what I did. The dust had settled, and life without her felt like a quiet victory lap. My garage was mine, the street was peaceful, and the neighborhood had a new lightness to it. But I'd learned something through all this. People like her don't just lose and fade away without a fight. They're wired to push back, to fling one last handful of mud before the curtain drops. So when I say I wasn't shocked by her final stunt, I mean it. She'd already shown me who she was. It came a few weeks after the moving truck rolled out, subtle at first, like a bad smell you can't quite place. I'd pull into my garage and everything seemed fine. No cars, no mattresses, just my space. Then one evening I noticed a faint scratch on my car door. Nothing major, just a thin line like someone had dragged a key along it. I brushed it off. Could have been anything, right? But then it happened again a few days later, this time on the hood. That's when my gut kicked in. She was back, or at least her spite was. I didn't have proof, not yet, but the timing was too perfect. She'd vanished from sight, sure, but not from the game, not entirely. I started parking closer to the house, keeping an eye out, and sure enough, I caught a glimpse one night. A shadow slipping down the street, too quick to ID, but the swagger screamed her. No confrontation, no yelling, just petty little scratches to remind me she still existed. It was pathetic, really, but also classic her. One last gasp to prove she wasn't beaten. I could have installed a camera, called the cops, made a fuss, but I didn't. Why? Because it wasn't worth it. She'd already lost everything that mattered, her car, her pride, her grip on the neighborhood. These scratches, they were just the dying echoes of a tantrum, and I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. So I let it ride, buffed out the marks, and kept living. Over time, even that stopped. The shadow didn't show up again, the scratches dried up, and the neighborhood gossip shifted to new dramas. Whose dog was barking too much, whose kid dented a mailbox. Her name faded from the chatter, her reign of nonsense officially over. I'd won not by outshouting her, but by outlasting her. She'd thrown every trick she had, parking invasions, sob stories, mattresses, social media rants, and I'd dodged or dismantled them all without breaking stride. The best part. I didn't have to become her to beat her. I stayed calm, played smart, and let her bury herself in her own mess. Now my mornings were simple. Coffee on the balcony, car in the garage, no chaos in sight. The neighbors still nodded at me with a mix of respect and amusement, like I'd quietly slayed a dragon they'd all been dodging. Maybe I had. With her shadow tricks fizzling out, the neighborhood slipped into a rhythm so calm it almost felt surreal. Like we'd all been holding our breath for months and could finally let it go. My garage stayed pristine, no unwanted guests or spiteful scratches, just the quiet hum of a life uninterrupted. I'd catch myself pulling in sometimes, half expecting her car to be there, smugly parked like it owned the place, but it never was. That chapter was closed, and the relief was palpable. The neighbors felt it too. They'd toss me a grin or a wave, a silent good riddance hanging in the air. Her reign of petty tyranny had left a mark, sure, but it was fading fast, replaced by a shared sense of triumph. We outlived her chaos, and that was worth more than any victory speech. I didn't need to gloat. The empty space in my driveway did it for me. Looking back, the whole mess was almost absurd. How one woman's refusal to park in her own damn spot spiraled into a full-blown war. She started it with that first shrug, that door slammed in my face, and I'd ended it with a tow truck and a smirk. But it wasn't just about the garage, not really. It was about boundaries, hers non-existent, mine ironclad. She thought she could bulldoze me like she'd done to everyone else, bending rules and goodwill to fit her whims. I proved she couldn't. Every step of the way, her excuses, her tantrums, her mattress stunt, I'd met her nonsense with something stronger. Patience, then strategy, then a little well-timed ruthlessness. I didn't have to scream or stoop to her level. I just had to wait for her to trip over her own arrogance. And trip she did, right into a scrapyard and a moving van. The best part? The neighborhood didn't just move on, it got better. Without her meddling, the HOA nonsense dialed back. No more random fines or power trips, just people living their lives, parking where they were supposed to. I'd hear snippets of her legend now and then, a cautionary tale swapped over beers or at barbecues. Remember that lady who lost her car over a garage? They laugh, shake their heads, and I'd sip my coffee, staying quiet. I didn't need to chime in, the story told itself. She'd been her own worst enemy, and I'd been the guy who let her prove it. That was enough for me. My mornings stayed peaceful, my balcony view unobstructed, and every time I parked in my garage, it felt like a small, private win. A reminder that sometimes justice doesn't need a fight, just a steady hand. The war was over, and the spoils were simple. My garage, my peace, and a neighborhood free of her shadow. It's funny how something as mundane as a parking spot turned into a saga, but that's what happens when you tangle with someone who thinks rules are optional until they're not. She rolled out of here with her tail between her legs, leaving behind a trail of scratched paint and shredded pride, and I couldn't have scripted it better. I didn't need a parade or a medal. The quiet click of my car door in my own driveway was trophy enough. Every morning since, I'd sit on my balcony, coffee in hand, and soak in the stillness. No more doorbell rants, no more junk cluttering my space. It was mine again, and that felt like winning the lottery, only with less paperwork and better coffee. The neighbors turned her into a ghost story of sorts. A what-not-to-do fable they'd trot out when someone got too big for their britches. "Don't pull a her," they'd say, and everyone knew what it meant. Don't push until you're the one who breaks. I'd catch the occasional nod from across the street, a silent salute for putting an end to her reign. They didn't need the details. They'd seen the tow truck, heard the group chat roasting, watched the moving van peel away. I'd stayed steady through it all, letting her unravel herself with every bad move. From that first, "oh, it's more convenient" to the mattress meltdown, she'd built her own pyre and I'd just handed her the match. No yelling, no fists, just a phone call and a smile, and she was gone. What I learned, if there's a lesson in it, is that people like her thrive on bending others until they snap. But if you don't snap, if you bend back just enough, they've got nothing left. She thought I'd cave or escalate, give her something to twist. I didn't. I outlasted her, outsmarted her, and when the time came, I hit where it hurt. Her car, her ego, her little kingdom. Now the street's quieter, the air's lighter, and my garage is a fortress of calm. I don't miss the drama, but I don't regret the fight either. It showed me what I'm made of and what she was. So here I am, coffee steaming, car parked, and a story to tell if anyone asks. She's someone else's problem now, or maybe nobody, and I'm good with that. Justice rolled up in a tow truck, and I got to watch it drive away.